It is my belief that ADHD is largely false. The idea of it in general, the diagnoses around it, and the treatment of it. So when I looked up what ADHD was, obviously I know what it is, but I just like to look up things to see the definition. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, common neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by persistent patterns of inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity that interfere with functioning. It affects children and adults, often lasting a lifetime, with symptoms typically arising before age 12. Treatments usually involve medication, therapy, or a combination. So I just disagree with the notion of ADHD as a whole. Of course, everything is made up in terms that everything's a construct that we just come up with as humans. And what determines if that construct is good or bad is how it affects us. And I think that the creation of ADHD as a diagnosis and treating it is fundamentally hurts most people, especially those diagnosed. Because ADHD, as a kid, I was super hyperactive and I couldn't pay attention at all. I was a kid. I feel like that's a natural part of growing up as a child, especially for young boys. I mean, you look at any species in the world, and the young males are always roughhousing with each other, just running around playing. And that's what I did all my childhood. I just ran around with all my siblings, all my friends throughout my neighborhood, my backyard, the woods. We just ran around all day. And even my parents talk about that as a kid so much about how I was such a maniac and so hyperactive. I just loved to run around and play and hum and jump and do all sorts of things. And I feel like that's what humans and children do to grow up. You learn about the phases of development for children in the young phases, ages like 1 to 5. It's all motor skills, it's all interacting with your environment, playing with others, you know, sight, smell, touch, all those things. And so when you put young kids in school at a young age, preschool, kindergarten, they're like 4 or 5 years old, and you expect them to sit through the entire day, like 6 hours, just passively listening, of course kids are going to be, have attention problems. And I think that's natural. I think what's bad is when you diagnose kids with ADHD and tell them that, they can't pay attention, they can't focus. And that's just going to self reinforce their beliefs and self limit them. And that can carry on very much into adulthood with the identity that they take as someone who doesn't have good attention skills or good, impulsiveness or just or they're just hyperactive. And so on top of, self-reinforcing this negative belief in these children, you also chemically alter their brains exogenously, pharmaceutically. Why? I mean, even if you think that ADHD is 100% real and it's because of a fundamental problem in how the child's brain, has the proper amount of hormones or chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all those things within the brain. There's an imbalance, kind of same thing with depression. If you think that's true, then what you don't want to do is what you want to do is figure out why and not immediately take on the thought that, oh, it's just something inherently wrong with this child. Like this human being simply does not produce the correct amount of serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, whatever. Look at some things that could be causing that. Maybe it's because their diet is terrible. Maybe it's because 70% of the food that children in the US eat is ultra processed. And that is not only, feeding them bad artificial things like flavors, sweeteners, artificial colors that we know, you look at these studies, that they affect negatively children's attention and uh, like makes them hyperactive from all the sugar, but also just not getting them the proper nutrients to develop their brain, like choline and all these other nutrients. Um, so yeah, maybe it's just because their nutrition is terrible. Maybe it's because they're not getting enough physical activity. I mean, I was so hyperactive when I was young. I was running around doing things all the time. I'd be playing Wii or other games, and I'd be jumping up and down 24/7. Um, Like if not for how my parents raised me and for them not over medicalizing me and bringing me to doctors about this, I would 100% would be, you know, told that I have ADHD if not for my parents. If I had other parents, I would have been told I had ADHD. I would have been medicalized for it, medicated for it, and I probably would have turned out a lot differently than I did. And I've seen this with people in my own life, like my younger cousin who has did not have the same upbringing or the luxury that I did with my parents and my environment, and it's definitely shown in him. And obviously, physical activity or nutrition aren't the only things that are because of this. There are many other factors in his life, but um, like not getting enough physical activity is definitely one of them. I was a freak in recess. I played sports throughout all my life, and these kids are expected to sit through school. I mean, I imagine if I didn't live in the suburbs, if I lived in the city growing up, and maybe, all the walking around would be good in terms of physical activity, but if I just had to stay in an apartment all day, like I would probably go crazy. Plus, there's something with nature that is naturally or that is kind of good, whether it's just the sun or whether it's, grass or trees or I don't know what it, or just not being around EMF, RMF. But so nutrition, sleep, physical activity, sleep. I mean, we know that we sleep 25% less than previous generations and previous centuries. 25% less. We know that sleep is very much important for brain development, especially in younger children and developing children in like teenagers during, oh my God, why can't I think of it? During puberty. Um, and we don't think that sleep is affecting them. We also know that sleep is so important for cognition and for emotional regulation and attention and focus. Sleep, I would bet that's a big issue. And then you have toxins in the environment, in our water, all these artificial fragrances and everything, all these plastics and phthalates that are messing with our hormones that are super important for not only developing fetuses and young children and people in puberty, but anyone. Toxins. Then you have currently modern day, just phones and social media. I mean, everyone has a short attention span nowadays. They're just constantly flicking through reels, on myself included. Like these are things that I'm working on. I'm just saying, like everyone has problems with it, young and old alike. My parents, even my dad says that his like attention span is gone. Like he can't even focus on an article. He just like skims. And so why are we telling children or even older or even like adults that they have something inherently wrong with them? What I think is really wrong is our modern environment. Instead of, changing the environment to match our biology and what is, natural for these kids, as in not sitting in school for 6 hours a day, and obviously the things with eating better, sleeping better, moving more, getting these toxins out of our environment, having less screen time. Of course, like why are we medicating the child instead of changing the environment? We're labeling the child as disordered instead of changing the environment to make it better for the child. I mean, this is things that some of my parents did so well, and I'm so thankful for it because I was the poster child of ADHD as a kid. I mean, my mom just says of ever since I could run or walk, like I kept her in shape because I was constantly running around and she had to keep up with me. And, my dad frequently talks about how we would never go out to dinner, my family. I have older sister, younger brother, and we would never go out to dinner because I was never able to sit still and I would always, just be annoying or cause some sort of scene, just moving around and fidgeting too much. And so he would have to take me like out of the restaurant, go outside, and I would just like walk around or just move my body outside. And same thing with my brother, but to a lesser degree when he got older. Um, and then, even in school, up until like fourth grade, I would purposely choose desks in the back of the classroom so that I could stand up all day. I would stand up, probably be humming, probably shifting back and forth on my feet and just like bending over and doing my work on my desk. But even And I played sports all my life, a bunch of recreational sports and just playing outside with my friends, running all the time. I played 3 organized sports up until 8th grade. I continue to play sports and will throughout my entire life, and I play in college right now, and I played all throughout high school. And even with all that, and going crazy at PE and recess, the only 2 times where they allow us to run around in school, I was still standing up and could not sit still or stand still for 6 hours a day in school. Like, I'm honestly surprised that I didn't um, that someone didn't talk to me about like ADHD, and I'm thankful for my parents with where that wasn't a thing, because I think that attention and being hyperactive, I think attention is something that you can totally work on, and it's a skill, it's trainable. Therefore, when you tell a child that, they have this disorder and they can't focus or pay attention, that's just going to self-reinforce in their brain. Whereas if you give them a growth mindset, like they always tell us in school, I wish they actually followed what they told us. If you give them a growth mindset of, hey, all children don't have no attention span when they're younger. Everything is new to them. Everything is novel. They're trying out everything, touching everything, licking everything, eating everything. Toddlers and young kids. And rather that, of course, your attention span is going to be terrible. You're new to it. You haven't really focused on anything in your life. You're so young. It's something that you have to build. It's a skill. You have to work on it. You'll become better with it with time, with training. That is a much better mindset than telling someone that they're bad at it and that they have to take this pill that will alter the chemistry of their brain in order to make them whole, in order to make them regular. Like what? And back to my childhood, like I couldn't stand up in school, all those things. What else? Um, and so yeah, throughout my childhood, I was very much the poster child of ADHD, yet I feel as though throughout my life I've turned out above average in many ways. Like I was always in the best, um, like most advanced classes in school. I've always done really well in school, mostly straight A's, really good GPA in high school, really good GPA now in college still, almost still straight A's. Um, like 1400 on my SAT. I took a bunch of AP classes that I did really well on. And not to like, I'm not like bragging or anything. I don't think I'm better than people in so many different ways, but I do think I'm better than people in many ways. Um, like I'm disciplined very much. I feel like I have good time management, and these are skills that I teach at school with like the teaching job I have, teaching assistant. And I just feel like you would never want to tell a child that they have something wrong with them, and that to make it better, you have to take a pill and take a medication instead of work on it. Of course, you tell people, not just children, but people in general, that there's things that they can become better at. You tell someone who's overweight, you're overweight. That doesn't mean you're inherently bad. Sure, you're fat. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means that there's skills that you're deficient with. You need to, learn how to eat better foods, eat the proper amount of foods, move your body so that you burn more calories, sleep better so that you recover better and actually burn more calories and your metabolism becomes better. Yeah, those are my thoughts about ADHD. Last thing, actually. Let's say you do really believe in ADHD and that, you or someone you love or close to really has ADHD. Before you medicate them, why not fix everything else in their life like I just talked about? Until you, I believe, completely fix their nutrition and make that great, make sure they're getting all the nutrients that they need and nothing bad in their diet, perfect their sleep. Again, not perfect, but like near very good. You get them very physically active, make sure they're, actually expending their energy, getting tired throughout the day and moving their body. And you try to get rid of as many toxins in your environment as possible and reduce screen time or make screen time, beneficial to where people aren't just scrolling through reels or watching endless YouTube videos. Until you do all of that, I don't think medication should be involved at all. I think that finish those, once you make better those root causes of just health in general, those are root causes of health, which is affects our brain and cognition and attention. Once you fix those, then you can address what's really wrong. Because until you fix those, you don't know what it actually is. And I would say more often than not, it is because of those lifestyle factors. So yeah, I definitely get those sorted first for anyone, myself included. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.